Hi, I'm Sandja Brügmann, founder of the Passion Institute, and with me today I have Mark Nepo. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Great to be with you.
So, if I say work is love made visible, how does that relate for you? How does love relate to work?
Oh, love relates, and that's from Cahill Gibran, I recognize.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, I think that we are asked by our very nature to find what we love and inhabit it. And so I think, there's an old kind of saying in the Eastern tradition that a master, you know you're near a master because you can't tell whether they're working or playing.
That's great.
That it becomes one. And, my father, who was a lifelong master with wood, he died a few years ago at 93, but when I was a boy, I remember him, sawdust all around him, and he would always say, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. So I think that, there are so many tasks just by being on earth, and we tend the tasks, and we then try to get to a place where we can stop and love the light. And I think actually we're challenged to do it the other way around. I think we're challenged to love the task and tend the light. Because if you do love what you do, then the tasks, it's not denying or reframing, oh, every task is wonderful. But there's really nowhere to go. So when we are fully where we are, the tedious tasks become less tedious. Yeah.
So you mentioned your father. You mentioned your father yesterday in the Open Center as well. And I can understand from your process he has been one of your biggest teachers.
Well, it's interesting because I'm learning since he died. I'm 64, he was 93, but I don't think he consciously taught me a lot about creativity, but I'm learning since he has passed. I actually learned a lot from him. I don't think he knew he was teaching, and I don't know that I knew I was learning. But now I see, for instance, he worked as a woodworker. He would work on many projects at the same time, and I, as a kid, would see he would have different projects in different vices, and he'd work on one, then he'd go to another, and he'd glue this, and then he'd carve that. Well, I work on many books at the same time.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah. I have forever. Yeah. And I never realized it till recently. Oh, I learned that from him. That's just one example.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So, you were on Super Soul Sunday with Oprah. How did that influence your career?
Oh my goodness, it just has brought my work all over the world. And, Oprah is an amazing heart person herself, an amazing bridger, and she kindly really understands my work and has supported it. And, she, by speaking about my work, it literally went all over the world within days.
Yeah.
Within days. Yeah.
So there was an exponential increase in your visibility.
Yeah, so I would also say, and this ties into work, that while that has given me incredible opportunities, it hasn't changed the inner work. The work is still the same.
Yeah.
This is the work.
Yeah.
Whether it's 2 people or 100 or 1,000, it hasn't changed the real nature. Because, and I've learned this from my cancer journey, that there's really nowhere to go. It's all wherever we are. So we're taught in some ways around work and career and accomplishments that, whatever it is, life is a journey that ascends some mountain to some imagined top. Well, that's not what my experience has been. Life is horizontal. We're all the same distance from the center and the world. And so it's really more about like when a stone is put into a lake and it ripples. That's more what's happened to my work because of all this. It's just rippled further.
Yeah, yeah. So same work, but the ripples are...
Same work, yeah.
So this is an interesting question. How does it look when you are wild? So meaning the wild, unsocialized side.
Well, I don't know, maybe when I was younger that looked a little different, but I think that the longer that I have been here, I don't think there's much difference. Because for much of my adult life, I have worked to reduce what is in between my inner life and my outer life. So the more authentic that I can be and the more that I've practiced just being who I am, the less facade I have.
Yeah.
So, waking up and being alive, I have lost the ability to pretend. So there really isn't that much difference. I certainly have a range of mood, and I can get excited and dance and watch sports and get all charged up, and I have all the moods like anyone else. But I don't know, when we talk about wild, I think more of the wilderness and how natural animals are when no one is looking. So I think my wildness is more like that these days.
Yeah, the connection with nature, your inner nature.
Well, and the fact that there's no longer any sense of performing or holding some kind of face to the world.
Yeah, that's nice. How did you get there? Do you have some tips for the rest of us?
Well, I think the one teaching in life for me has been to have faith that who we are is enough. I can grow, I can get better at things, I can learn, but who I am is enough. I don't have to become other than I am. I can inhabit who I am, and by inhabiting who I am, I can become full and alive and engaged. So I think it's more about following our aliveness, and so that we can continue to spark.
That's great. In terms of some of the work that I do is with leadership and specifically businesses and leaders that are interested in sustainability or social business, solving some of the big issues that we're facing as humanity. What type of skills do you think those types of leaders need, or what are you seeing in terms of leadership?
Well, I think that, and I'm sure you're familiar, one of the great lines in the Tao is that the greatest leader is where the people act and they don't think that there's been a leader at all. They think it's all been them. And so I think that the kind of thing that we've been talking about, that I think when we, first off, to start in the center, when we can inhabit ourselves and be who we are, it gives us clear eyes and open ears, and therefore, and an open heart, and therefore we see and hear and act differently, and we make different decisions. So leaders in all different aspects, business, whatever it might be, have expertise and skills, but there's always a hand that guides a tool, and there's always a heart that guides the hand. So we start with the heart. The expertise is always there. It doesn't matter what field, but it makes a difference if the heart is guiding the hand that's guiding the tool. So let me tell you a story about a leader that I've discovered in something I'm writing. about community, a book I'm working on about moments of community. And so this was, and it's an amazing story because it holds certain things about leadership. And this was Sejong the Great, who was a Korean king in the 1300s. Sejong. Now what's so amazing about this story is that Sejong's father was a terrible, merciless tyrant. Sejong was the youngest of 3 sons. And typical with monarchies, the eldest would be in line. Well, the elder two noticed that there was something special about their younger brother. He had a light. He was luminous. And they went to their father and said, I know we're in line next, but we really think Sejong should be king next. So that's the first lesson of leadership in this example, in this story. Amazing. Amazing. That they somehow acted on what they knew.
And can put themselves aside.
Because they recognized something in their brother that they didn't have. The second part of this story is that their father listened. Their father said, okay. And he made his youngest son king and stepped aside.
Wow.
That's pretty unheard of.
Yes.
So this is another example of, I would say, visionary leadership. Is the humility to say, I'm going to lead by, just like parents want their children to do better than they, to recognize. So then what happens, and this is just quite incredible, Sejong becomes king, and this is the most powerful thing, is that he doesn't follow the pattern of his merciless tyrant father. He becomes a benevolent, enlightened king, and the first thing he does is he convenes the greatest minds in his kingdom to create what he called a hall of worthies.
Oh, that is so nice.
And then he charges them, and this is why I was so drawn to this story. At the time in Korea, there was a very complicated, difficult, ancient form of Chinese that was the language, and it was kept, it was maintained so that the ruling class would have knowledge and the people wouldn't have easy access to literacy. Sejong charged the Hall of Worthies to create a phonetic language that could be learned in 2 weeks, that he could give to his people so they could have the power of knowledge. And they did this. It's called Hang, and it's the language that Koreans use today. And when he gave it to the people, he said, it saddened me that my people couldn't express their concerns.
Wow. Phenomenal leadership.
And so in the education of leadership, I wonder, why did it take for me to be in my 60s to learn about this man's story? Why isn't this taught as a story of leadership?
Absolutely. It's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
That's great. So I know that Arianna Huffington wrote a testimonial in a new book, Inside the Miracle.
Yes.
What have you learned from Arianna?
Arianna, I think, is a great leader. I think Arianna is a person who is an amazing mix of feeling and clear action. And she is kind of very, in that way, similar to Oprah, that she is a working heart in the world. And I think that is what I would offer as an aspiration for the definition of a contemporary global leader. A working heart in the world.
Great. It's beautiful. Well, I know our time is coming to a close, so thank you so much for sharing some of your wisdom.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you, and the best with your work. Yeah.
Thank you.